Thank you so much for coming out in this heat. Jeez, it's hot out there. But thank you for coming out. It's nice and comfortable in here. Are you ready to call the meeting to order, Nancy? All right. 7:01, we will call this meeting to order. If I may ask you to please rise so we may give the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For the purposes of meeting minutes, I'll do the roll call at this point. Sharon Falkowitz.
Here.
Christine Patterson.
Here.
Nancy Redwood.
Here.
Adrian Fine.
Here.
Let the record reflect that absent is Diana Miller and Chad Henderson. On behalf of management, Corey Harris and Michael Canberg are here. Thank you.
Will someone make a motion to accept the open meeting minutes of June 5th?
Move to accept the open meetings of June 5th.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi, everyone. Tonight's meeting was scheduled last week as the board and management wanted residents to have the opportunity to ask questions or seek clarification regarding the election redo for Board of Trustees. One of the candidates who originally owned their home subsequently placed their home in a trust, changing their deed. Depending upon how a trust is structured, it will determine if the resident is a legal homeowner. Management sent the new deed to HOA counsel to be reviewed. Legal counsel determined based on the new deed the candidate did not own their home. The ballots were mailed before legal counsel advised management and the board and the candidate, before the legal counsel advised management and the board that the candidate did not own their home. Based on legal counsel review, the board had two options. We could proceed with the ballots that were mailed, which were the original ballots, or we could have a redo. If we had chosen to proceed with the original ballot, residents could have voted for a candidate that was disqualified. The board decided it was unfair to allow the community to have an option to unknowingly vote for a candidate that had been disqualified when they might have opted to vote for another candidate. The board also decided it was important to be fair, open, and honest with the community. We were also advised by legal counsel that sending a notice to the community that a candidate was disqualified wasn't sufficient notification if we were to proceed with the original ballot. The board unanimously decided to have an election redo and cancel the original ballot. By having a redo election, only qualified candidates were on the ballot. We determined this was the most honest and fair way to proceed. Many residents have expressed concern regarding the cost of the redo. The cost for the redo is $5,400. It is not $18,000 or more that some residents have reported. While we respect and understand that $5,400 is not an insignificant amount of money, an election for the Board of Trustees is so important to the community's governance, we unanimously decided the process had to be right and it had to be fair. Redoing the ballot was the right way to proceed. The total cost of the election, including the redo, is still $3,000 less than the election was last year. The extra $5,400 for the ballots to be correct and mailed equates to $3.07 per homeowner. The total cost of the election is $23,175, which equates to $13.19 per homeowner. We apologize for any confusion, misunderstanding, or concern with this process. We are committed to ensuring the community has a more robust process to try to validate that all candidates are vetted yearly, and that will include new candidates who want to run for the board as well as existing candidates. Mike will speak to the next steps, and the board will implement to ensure candidates and board members are qualified and the new timeline for the voting process. Mike.
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, everyone. To echo some of Nancy's comments and to expand on some of them, what had happened is that, as you had heard, one of the candidates who had originally purchased their home and their deed was in their personal name, subsequent to their purchase, had done some estate planning and had placed the deed in a trust. It was unclear at that time whether or not they were qualifying under Article 4, Section 2B of the bylaws, which identifies the qualifications for a candidate for the board here. Management became aware of this after the list of candidates were released by some of you, fellow residents, that had reported to us that they had some concerns. So we had taken those concerns and documentation and forwarded all this material to the board and to the HOA Council. During this review, the statutory obligation to send out the ballots, the deadline was upon us, and we had to make a decision, not having the opinion of council at that moment, to hold the ballots, which would have caused an election redo anyway, because we would have not met the statutory obligation for the ballots being mailed in a timely fashion, and chose instead to proceed with the ballots and waited for the legal opinion. After consultation with the board and council, the board advised management to coordinate for a revised ballot, minus the disqualified candidate, with the election vendor. This revised ballot was produced, sent to the board, reviewed, approved, and mailed out on Monday, July 8th. The board aligned on the fact that any ballot that was cast for the disqualified candidate was unfair to the voting unit owner, who may have voted differently. In light of this information, the board unanimously elected to cancel the initial ballot and reissue the ballot as a moral and ethical obligation to the community. Legally, they did not have to do this, but morally and ethically, because apparently this had happened in the past at one point, they were very sensitive to this issue and wanted to make sure that any unit owner casting a ballot was doing so authentically. As a result, the added time to process this election will now add a few weeks to it, 3 or 4. It's now scheduled, instead of this past Monday, the 8th, it will now occur on Wednesday, July 31st. Some of you may have received the ballots already, although I don't believe so. However, I do believe some people have been able to go online and cast their ballot. The candidates moving forward for any election in the future, with the submission of the candidates form, we will request proof of ownership and ask them to provide current deed information to make sure that it is accurate and current and that they are meeting the qualifications outlined in Article 3, Section 2B in your bylaws. Any deeds not clearly established in a personal name will require further proof to support the ownership, because there are, as stated, methods to qualify your candidacy even if your home is in a trust. This was not, in my opinion, management's opinion, any deliberate act by anyone. I don't believe that the candidate understood fully the rule. And once it was established, we took the corrective measure. It is unfortunate. The board did express yesterday to supervisors at my company, some executives were here, excuse me, specifically Tom Taylor, who's the regional director, who conveyed to Ted Gammon, the vice president of lifestyle, the board's dismay for this action, and seek to have the $5,400 cost for this addressed by council and management is actually speaking with council, and once we have some sort of conclusion on that, we will convey this information to the board and to the constituency. So I stand by the fact that elections are very critical to a community, and having the information correct is also critical. Maintaining the timeline is critical. On occasion, a few things happen and you cannot control the gravity around them. So unfortunately, it caused this disqualified candidate to be on the ballot. And in order to maintain integrity with the community, the board and management supports this decision to reissue the ballot to maintain election integrity. So that's pretty much the extent of my comment, and I'll be happy to turn it back over to you now. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Mike. So this meeting tonight was just about the redo for the election. So we've given you a status or explanation. We will accept questions once we adjourn the meeting. Does anyone make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, tonight's meeting was mostly about the redo for the election, or solely about the redo for the election, so if we can focus our questions on that part, anyone can, welcome to come up and ask us any questions that you might still have.
We're good.
Of course.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Frank Maffa, 6 Ingram Drive. First of all, I'd like to start out with saying you guys doing a great job. Anybody that wants to run for board of director for the board of trustees, I want them to say you're a very good person, because the job is a thankless job to be on the board. So, and to that extent, I don't understand why this one person had good intentions. I seem like, and if it wasn't for her ownership, she would have been qualified. She would have been a qualified person to be on the board. So we're trying to keep the person's name secret, but it's going to come out on the ballot. So I don't understand why we're keeping the person's names secret. And to that extent, I don't understand why we couldn't just cross out the name of that person on the ballot at the last minute by saying to the whole community, listen, this person is on the ballot, but unfortunately, the person is not qualified. So just cross out the name, don't vote for that person, and avoid this redo of the ballot.
It did come up in conversation, Frank. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
The attorney provided guidance to the board that does not suffice. Unfortunately, legally, that doesn't meet the threshold requirement in order to identify a disqualified candidate, because, Frank, we mail the ballots to every unit owner, excuse me. Some are on-site, some are off-site. Some owners are absentee. Not everyone may have gotten the communication about the disqualification. The only way to ensure that would be through another mailing, and at that point, whether the letter in the mailing said this person is disqualified, or the letter in the mail is the new ballot, the cost would have been negligibly different. There was no savings to do it that way, but more importantly, you couldn't just send a notice locally or virtually, digitally. It would not meet the requirement, and someone could then still, cause question or raise some sort of objections to the ballot as it was issued.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
No problem,
Frank.
sir.
Also, the ballots were out already when we said that, and people, but they need to know that all those ballots have.
Good evening. Delinda Mascolo, 4B Berkshire Drive. I have a question. If your house is in an irrevocable trust, are you considered a resident? Can you vote? Can you join committees? What does this do? Because I know a lot of people here have their homes in trusts, different trusts, so you're 55 and older. Can we amend this in our Constitution, or?
So your question is a good one. It's a valid question, but it's a legal question, and unfortunately, no one up here is qualified to
You're not
answer it.
considered a homeowner.
But what I can tell you is that if the home is placed in a trust, I'll use myself as an example. Michael Camberg buys a home in Concordia. 6 months later, Michael Camberg puts the home in the Michael Camberg Trust, and I'm a trustee to that trust. I am a qualified candidate to run for the board. Same scenario, except I am not a trustee, but I place my 3 children as my trustees. And it's the Michael Camberg Trust, but I am not listed as a person who is the trustee. I am not qualified.
So if we do this, we have to be the trustee.
You would want to seek legal advice.
Right.
You'd get legal advice from your own estate planning attorney, your own counsel, to
Right.
confirm this, but it would be based on the governance
And
you
then
want
you'd
to
be able to
qualify.
be a legitimate candidate then. All right.
As
thank
I
you.
understand the rule written, yes, that's the qualifier.
Okay, thank you. But are they allowed to participate, and are they homeowners?
The trust is the unit owner, and the trustees are the responsible party for the unit owner. So To say it differently, anyone listed as the trustee could cast the ballot on behalf of that unit, but they must be listed as the trustee.
Oh, even though they're not over 55? Or,
So it's unique because the ownership does not have an age requirement, just the residency does. You could own a unit here, you just can't live in it.
oh, yeah, true. A lot of people rent.
So this happens. It's as thankfully, people are enjoying longer lives and healthier, longer lives and vital lives. This is going to become more of a question for HOAs, not just at Concordia and not just in New Jersey, but nationwide. This will become more of a topic of discussion with the state planning. Certainly as HOAs are growing in popularity as a residential model.
You want to protect your home from the nursing
Always.
homes and
First and
wherever else
foremost,
we're
you
gonna
need
end
to
up after
protect.
Concordia.
Yes. You need to protect and preserve what you've built in your life. First and foremost, absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Pace, 39A, John Paul Jones Drive.
One more time, I'm sorry.
Colleen Pace,
Thank you.
P-A-C-E, 2 L's, 2 E's. Okay. Okay. This has happened before. Okay. Anybody who's lived here a length of time. The thing is, we already, you or the board, whoever, sent out a full package, okay? Why wasn't just one sheet of paper sent out with a little note explaining rather than a whole full package again? Am I correct, just sending out a whole full package or just one sheet?
Just the ballot. It won't have all the resumes again, but it will have the online instructions. It will have some of the voting instructions into it. That's obligation. They have to present that. And as I explained to the
Okay, so
prior
you
gentleman's
couldn't
question-
do just the one sheet with a little explanation?
No.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
I have the bylaws, but they're kind of old. They were revised in 2010. All trustees shall be members of the Homeowners Association and shall reside in the community. Is that still in force and effect? That any homeowner that wants to run for the board must live in the community. And the last question is, it's a little exorbitant paying for outside elections. Any way we could go back to the, Adrian's shaking her head, no. State law?
State law, yeah, it's a state law.
It is. Okay. I thought if you amend your bylaws according to this, you can run your elections how you want. Do we have new bylaws?
The bylaws have to follow state law. We can't amend the bylaws to go against the state law.
Okay, so it's definitely
No
just
matter what
state
our
law.
bylaw says, the state law will override whatever.
Okay,
And there's a new state
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I don't envy you those decisions. Sherry Friedman, 6 Rothwell Drive. So this is about what you were saying, Mike. It's very true that we all need to protect what we have worked a lifetime for. And it's also very true that many of us are looking at trusts. So I think what's important is that we need to get something from the lawyer that delineates this is the way that you write it if you want to ever run for the board. I don't know what other things you would be precluded from doing if your house is in a trust. So that's really my first question. Can you do everything except be on the board?
Can you ask that again? I'm not quite sure. I want to make sure that I'm.
Okay,
I'm-
let's
You mean
assume that
something like a
Michael-
lesser threshold, like committee membership or something?
on.
Good.
Michael Camberg's house is now in a trust.
Yes.
And it's in a trust such that he cannot run for the board.
Okay.
Can he be on committees?
With exception to, I believe, the Covenants Committee and the Finance Committee, I think that is a permissible action. Yes.
Okay.
I would need
What-
to be approved, obviously,
Yeah, of
but a
course.
submission in, but yes, I believe that's
But
permissible.
you wouldn't be disqualified, is my
Correct.
real
Not for
question.
the ownership issue, correct. Might be other
So-
issues you may not want me, but that might,
I
wouldn't be
think
the ownership model.
in the interest of the way things are going these days, we would like to see in writing from the attorney, these are the things that you need to do in order to still be qualified to run for the board and to be on any committee. If you do these things, you will not be qualified to run for the board. And then we will all understand from a legal standpoint the do's and don'ts. And I'll make my decision based on that.
So to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, an expansion of Article 3, Section 2, forgive me, I didn't have it in front of me, but I believe that's what is 2B, that lists the qualifications. So you want a
You say
legal
so.
opinion explaining what makes it a qualifying application versus not, right?
Yes, the do's and don'ts.
I see no reason why I can't at least get this information and request this information, certainly, and see what type of an opinion we can get. The only concern that I have, and I'm not an attorney, but I did study the law for a minute. The HOA attorney may say, look, I represent the HOA. They may give a generic or a template type of answer because they can't provide individual legal advice to unit owners, even though you're part of the HOA. He represents the association as a total entity, not the individual membership. So we should be able to get a general analysis and expansion and explanation on the qualifications, but it still may require some people to seek their own legal counsel to confirm that what they're doing is in step with that explanation.
Understood.
That's my only thought,
I
but
just
it's a
think
good idea.
The room is full of people who may want that information, if not now, then later.
It's an absolutely good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, then, thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Please be sure to cast your ballot. Anything you submitted prior has been nulled, is void. We need to submit a new ballot. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming out tonight, everyone.